First, I'd like to thank you for having me back as a speaker this time. And also, tagging on what Ann said, I'd like to encourage everybody to go out to the City Hall ribbon cutting. And if you see a city employee or mayor or council person and you just have to casually ask, what the plans for the gym back there, or that makes a really great civic center / cultural arts center for Redmond, and pretend like you'd never heard of me, that would be great too. So I'm here to talk today about a group that Leadership Redmond last year brought together, who's looking at what to do with the old gym building now that the new City Hall is opening and the building is sitting back there, standing empty for the time being. When we were in the class, we got a chance to tour the gym, and a few of us, it really struck our imagination that that could really be something that could be really good for Redmond, and our vision was basically a cultural arts center, and as we've looked into it more, that's kind of grown in with the gym portion there. A great civic center could be in there and really be a chance for the people of Redmond to come together for events, move the crab bake inside if that's something you're interested in. Things like that throughout the year, and there's really not that kind of meeting, gathering, performance space in the downtown Redmond area, and we think it really would add something to Redmond. So part of what we've done, or part of what we did as our class, which ended in May, is that the last event of our class was to have a public meeting to gauge support for the idea, to get ideas of what could go in the gym, and just get people talking about the idea. And we had that in May at Wild Ride, in the hottest room I've ever held a meeting in, which kept the meeting short and to the point, which was a good aspect of it. Since then, we've basically been gathering more information, trying to settle on a permanent structure for our group so we can start talking seriously with the community and with the city about moving forward with this project. We've finally gotten that in place. We're going to merge into the High Desert Society of the Arts, which is a pre-existing nonprofit that was formed partly to bring a cultural center to Redmond and Central Oregon, but over the years has kind of faded, and we're going to revive that and move forward with that structure, which will hopefully be in place as of tomorrow evening. What really inspired us to take this on, though, is that building itself. And I'm not, I've only been in Redmond for 6.5 years, so that's always been an empty building for me. But I imagine some people here went to school and took events. Anybody that actually used that gym?
Took my kids, yeah.
Yeah. So what I find is, I don't know, the building just intrigued me once I was inside it and started thinking about it. But once I found, when I started talking to people, is stories just start coming out of the woodwork. The Globetrotters played there, state wrestling matches, all sorts of dances, a few first kisses, and some other things apparently took place. And I'm not asking about the other thing, but there's a lot of real community love and support for that building that we're hoping we can capitalize on. So, the first aspect is really just preserving something that's uniquely Redmond, but also it can provide a community gathering space that we don't really have in the heart of Redmond. In addition to the huge space, which could probably be, on occasion split up into 2 smaller meeting spaces, there's a lot of room on the side, in the wings of the gym that was former classrooms that could be used for offices, classrooms, art studios, whatever. The possibilities are really pretty unlimited. We see the events that could happen in there as a way that as Redmond grows, and it's going to continue to grow. As much as I wish I'd closed the door when I crossed the state line, I didn't, and people are still coming. There's going to be a lot of people like me who are relatively newcomers to Redmond. You know, I was fortunate, I was close to the Dry Canyon, and I discovered it and kind of fell in love with that and loved the idea that somebody had the foresight to do that, to make a long linear park there. So I got involved in the city through the Dry Canyon, and feel like, I mean, this is really home to me now after being here a little while. And I think that as Redmond grows, we're going to need more and more opportunities like that for people to come together over a common interest and get involved in the city, and so that we can remain that sort of tight-knit, close community that we've grown to be, and that I know I and some other newcomers really love. And finally, you know, having that building there, I think, could generate some, you know, an entrepreneurial and creative spirit in Redmond that we need moving forward as we grow. It's nice to always be going out and looking for the big businesses to come in on this side of 97, but we also need some of that entrepreneurial spirit and growth in the downtown core. And we think this project could help build upon what's already happening there and move it forward. Excuse me. So the advantages the gym offers, and by the way, feel free to interrupt me. I'm much better at answering questions than just talking all day here. So, but the city already owns the building, so there's no requirement for it to be bought. It's a very large and very flexible space. The main gym area is 100 feet by about 80 feet. There's an existing stage that could be used, and it's located right in the downtown area. Our group has some goals about how we see this project going forward. And again, this is a city-owned building, so this isn't something I or my group can dictate how things happen. It has to come as a partnership with the city and working with the city, which we've already tried to start, but we want to be that partner for the city. Our city runs, thankfully, fairly leanly. You know, they're careful with their dollars. They don't want to invest in a project that's going to cost lots of money down the road. We think that we can help out during the process and take on some of the duties and help out some city staff in finding some of the solutions to these problems. We've already started a public discussion. We're here today to talk to you about what you think about the idea, thoughts you might have. And hopefully we, the nonprofit, will be a part of, or some other group in the city can serve as a conduit for some of the fundraising that's ultimately going to have to take place if this is going to happen. So what our group has done is established a 501c3 structure so we can start moving ahead in an organized fashion rather than sort of freelance fashion we've been working right now. We're looking to, at our next meeting, form a committee to actually come up with an identity for our group. At the moment, we started out almost by default when we didn't really think ahead about marketing ourselves as Evergreen Cultural Arts.org. As we look at it going forward, we think we need something a little bit more catchy, something that doesn't just rely on the graduates from the elementary school, but also the high school and the junior high that was in there. So we're going to be doing that. We're engaging with the city. The city council is in the midst of planning their goals for 2017 fiscal year, 2018 fiscal year, right. I'm not sure if it's happened yet, but we've been working to try to get ourselves on the agenda, something very general, like begin the process of determining the best use for the gym. When the city bought the school, they did a study, what it cost to fix up everything, and considered whether or not they wanted to save the gym At the time, they decided they did want to save the gym. The old annex was torn down for parking, so the city council did make the decision that that gym was worth preserving. What hasn't been done is finding out how best it can be used if it is preserved, and how it can be maintained and be so self-sufficient as it goes down the road. So that's some of what we have to work with them on. We're looking also, as we get going, to promote our group in the community and promote the project in the community to get people talking about the idea. So let me stop for a second here before I just keep rolling on with this. Do we have any questions? Okay.
What did the city estimate it would cost to remodel the building?
When the city did the study for the school building back in 8 years ago, I think it is now, and said the school building cost $9 million, and we ended up at 12. They were to get the gym basically up to usable, to take care of the structural issues, any hazardous material, and then basically cleaning up the shell and the inside. And so it could be basically used as a basketball court again. It was $1.28 million, and that was 8 years ago. And when you consider the overrun on the school, you're probably $2.5 million. And that really doesn't include the amenities you would want to have in there if you are going to actually use the stage. I mean, seating, a possible catering kitchen, green room,
Where would that money come from?
well, it's going to have to come from a combination, but there's going to have to be significant private fundraising to do that. We're going to have to go out and look at options for that. There is some money in the redevelopment budget for the downtown area. Not enough, but some that could be dedicated towards that if it can be shown that it would actually stimulate economic development in that area. I mean, it has to be justifiable to get those funds. There are a number of, we've talked with a number of other places that have done something similar, and most of them have done it with some combination of grants and some local funding. But I can't remember the name of the city now, but one person we talked to, their group started out with a $40,000 grant from the Ford Foundation just to gauge interest, and based on that got a $400,000 grant, and this is like 10 years ago, from the Ford Foundation again, to take care of the structural issues in the building they took over. So I mean, there are funding sources available. How available they'll be in the future is hard to say. But I think if we can't show big community support and get some community grants and other things happening, then I don't think the city's going to feel it's justifiable to look forward. So we're going to have to be a big part of that question, where the money's coming from.
When we started on Hope Playground, we applied for some grants, and we were denied one because we didn't have the community involved up front. So my suggestion to you is get some pledges from the business community before you go out for some of the grants, because we ended up getting it in time, but we lost it the first round because then we went at it backwards. So you can get the community buy-in, and you just have to get pledges. I mean, until you know it's rolling, then you want to collect.
Right.
But that helped us with one, and it was a major grant. I mean, it was well over $200,000 for us. That was pretty major. So that's a suggestion I have. And I'll probably have more, but I'll leave it at that.
We'll want to hear them more. Great. But yeah, one of the things it's taken us a while to get going, is actually having a structure where we can go out and have the ability to ask for those grants or ask for pledges from business, and we're getting to that point now. So that's part of what we're going to gear up. And again, I think the community support thing is critical, because without that, it's just not going to happen, nor should it.
to build on what Gary
Yes.
said, the city started out with $70,000 in their budget to remodel St. Johnson Park someday, and ended up, I think, the city probably put more than 600,000 into it. So the city can be brought along.
Yeah. And I think the city could be brought along, but I don't think that.
And don't
I
go.
want my personal goal, I'm not speaking for anybody else, I want this to really be driven by the community. And if it's driven by the community, then I think, yeah, the city council can come along and will come along. But it needs to come from us, not down. It's just, that's not gonna get handed down and say, do this. It's gonna be, they're not gonna be left with choice. I think there was someone over here before.
When was the gym built, and how structurally sound is it? Did it hold up well during all the snow?
It's still there.
Well, that's good.
I haven't heard anything. I did keep driving by and looking at the roof, but the gym was built in 1944, the original gym for the school was burned down by a student arsonist. And so there was a bond issue in the community. I think it was for like, the bond issue was something like $50,000. But they passed a bond issue and built the gym in time for school to open for 1945. So I mean, they did that during World War II, which seems like a great community accomplishment and something that, you know, needs to be remembered and honored, because this was not a big town at that time. Not that we're a huge town now, but it was, you know, it was really an issue of the community coming together and sort of surviving that blow during that difficult time already and moving forward with it. As far as structurally, the building's not in any danger of falling down, I've been told, but there are significant structural issues. Part of that $1, $2, whatever $1 million involves structural upgrades. Apparently the roof more or less just sits on top of the walls. I guess it's tied in somehow, but it's so one of the things that has to happen is steel columns have to go in and the roof has to be tied to that. As far as what hazardous materials might be in there, I mean, that's always a guess. It was a lot more in the school building than was expected, but this is a separate building and I don't think would have some of the issues, but you don't know. So, I mean, there are issues, but we have time to work through the process. It's not going to disappear on us overnight.
Yeah, is there any plans to do something for the kids? Roller skating, dances?
If you want roller skating, you and Hannah have to talk.
Was it?
Yeah. We have sort of a broad idea of what we want. When the city actually makes that decision, we hope we'll be a loud voice at the table and be heard, but I mean, the city's gonna have to make that choice. If that gym area, you know, is a sort of civic center type area, I mean, there are a lot of possibilities what could happen with there, and certainly I would hope that, you know, having an area for everyone in the community, from kids on up, would be part of it. Certainly, I mean, there's a stage and plays and other activities are things that could happen. The gym floor is still in there. The building's not going to be sustainable as only a basketball court, but, you know, it wouldn't be the pro level finish on the floor, but things can be pulled off and, you know, it can be used for basketball courts or, you know, any other big space, dances, wedding receptions, vintners dinners, okay. Yeah, I mean, when I talk to people who've been involved in this type of thing, and it's totally new to me, the trick is the more a space like that, the more nights you can fill, the more likely it is to pay for itself and keep on functioning. It's just a matter of the more events you can get, the more likelihood you have of success. So keeping that space as flexible as possible so you can have, you know, music in there one night and you know, kids in there bouncing off the walls the next night is key.
Keeps them off the street.
Yeah.
Hopefully, keeps spray cans out of their hands.
Yeah. And I mean, again, you know, it's, part of it will be providing, you know, getting that facility there, and then other groups in the community seeing what it's good for and wanting to hold events there. I mean, the Reach, the former Boys and Girls Club, whatever, I mean, I could imagine some events they could sponsor in there. Again, it's a big space, and right now we're just kind of filling it up with ideas. At some point we'll have to choose which of those ideas work, but now I wouldn't consider anything really off the table. We're getting close to time? Okay.
We are.
Is there urban renewal money available for that?
There is some urban renewal money that was earmarked for a civic center type project that potentially could flow our way. It's not going to be enough to cover it by any means.
Right.
But there is a chunk of money in there for that. And I'm getting the signal to cut it short, which is good. So basically, right now, until we do get our new identity, you can find us online at evergreenculturalarts.com, on Facebook at facebook.com, Evergreen Cultural Arts. And we'd love to have people, if you're interested in being involved in any way, we'd love to hear about that. But if you just went to school there, or you took your kids to school there or whatever, and you've got a story, the stories are a great way to get people interested. So we'd love to just hear your story. You can send us an email, you know, get in touch, and we'll come and take your story down for you. But we'd love to hear from you on those things. So thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you.
Don't forget to go to the ribbon cutting,
21st.
10 o'clock, Tuesday. See you there. Pretend like we haven't met. Pigeonhole the mayor, pigeonhole the city manager, and talk it up, because we need to get them knowing that we're real about it. We're going to try to make it happen.